What is up everybody, Ronnie here, your go-to Canva instructor. Welcome one more time to our channel. I am super happy to be here with you today. We are going to talk about design and 5 of the most common design mistakes I can see over and over again on Facebook when people design in Canva. And by all means, I'm not here to judge anybody's capacity to design. It's just that I wanted to do and create this episode because I believe if we get rid of these 5 maybe misconceptions, concepts that you might not know actually exist in design. Once you get over that, then you will become a much better designer. Okay, so what I have done, I have spent quite a bit of time in our community on Facebook, and I went back way back because I didn't want anyone to feel offended because maybe I showed their design. So I went back like a couple of years back to go and find some designs so that I could illustrate the 5 design mistakes that I want to talk about today. So the first design mistake is related to typography, your fonts. The mistake is that people use too many fonts or fonts that do not really pair well together. So we can see on this design, let me try to count how many different fonts we have. So we have the teal one. Okay, so that's one. I believe the Team SEO here is a different font. If I look at the O, you see how round this O is compared to this one. So that's a second font. I believe there is a third one here for the Facebook and Instagram handle. And then there is a fourth one here with the handwritten kind of font. So the first mistake I would say related to font is that the person here used too many different fonts on the same design, which results in a lack of balance, a lack of consistency on this design. So that's the first mistake, too many fonts. So what is a good amount of font, you will ask? Well, very good question. I believe we should stick to 2 and maybe in some cases, but in some rare cases, maybe go all the way up to 3 different fonts on a specific design. If you're designing a longer type of design like a presentation, stick with the same rules. I would go for 2 fonts. And then the second thing I see is not quite executed very well on this design is how the person decided to pair these fonts together. We can see that this one, the white one, and the teal one, the aqua one, are quite similar but yet different. So I don't see much difference between these 2 fonts, and that could be an issue because it might seem slightly off and people don't understand why, but it's because 2 fonts are really similar but not the same. So the eye might perceive something which is not quite right, but your brain cannot really decide or point out what it is. And also the combination of this handwritten font and the other font right here is not optimal because the handwritten font has a very long text. It's a hashtag I love when you social media me. So it's very long, and this particular handwritten font right there, not very legible. So if you're going to use, let's say, an accent font like this one, which is the one that the person has used the less on the design, make sure it is legible. And handwritten font are not the most legible fonts. So don't use that for your hashtag, for example. You could have used that for Team SEO, for example, the other word right here. So yeah, that's what I can say about this design and about font. So what have we learned here? Because this video is all about you learning from the 5 design mistakes so you don't perpetuate them, you don't reproduce these mistakes in your future designs. So first learning, first teaching is that limit yourself to 2 fonts on your design. If you really need an extra font, go for 3 fonts, but no more than 3 different fonts. And second, try to go for a high contrast between the different font in your font combination. So if you go for a bold font type of like the one we see here in aqua, then you can contrast this with maybe a thin handwritten font because you have bold and thin. Or you might have a tall font that you combine with a short font. Just always look for contrast between your fonts. And there are tons of websites that can teach you how to pair fonts. This is a really good article from the Canva blog with a lot of different combinations that you can go for, and you can really find Archivo Black and Archivo Narrow, for example, or Ballet, and then this font right here. So these kinds of articles, and you can find thousands over the internet. It doesn't have to be only Canva, but you will find font combinations that are already being selected for you. So use these resources if you don't really know how to pair your font. All right, the second design mistake that I want you to avoid at all costs is the mistake of using the wrong color combination. So we have a logo here, which it's not a bad logo. I mean, it's not great, but it's not a bad logo. But what is a little bit hard on my eyes here is the color combination that this person has chosen. The really flashy red and the green combined with some yellow, there's something that it's not harmonious in my opinion. And also, I understand that design is very subjective. And again, my goal here is not to criticize for the sake of criticizing. It's just to try to show you some design fundamentals, some design principles that I believe would make your design better. So I believe combining red and green and yellow, it doesn't really work. And especially for this particular design. It says, welcome to Goa. So Goa is a state in India where there's lots of beaches, hence the palm trees. Cheers. So I like the logo, it's just the colors. It could have been so much better with more harmonious colors. All right, so one thing you need to keep in mind when you choose your colors, when you combine your colors, is that you need to find that balance, to find this harmonious mix of the colors. Remember that every color kind of triggers specific emotions, right? So red triggers passion, triggers danger, maybe triggers like really hot kind of emotions. When I look at the red one, green is more about nature, it's more about calm, it's more about eco-friendly and all these ecological vibe, but red and green don't really combine well together. So what can we learn from this design? Well, the first thing is that you have to be careful how you mix your colors. You have to find this harmonious mix. So a page from which I like to start when it comes to colors and pairing colors is canva.com/colors. So it is Canva's resource for colors. So as I told you before, colors have meaning. So you could go color meanings here. So the last part of this landing page has a bunch of different colors. And if you click on it, for example, let's find a similar green as this one, something like this, lime green. If I click here, I will have a little bit of information. So everything about the color lime green, the meaning of the color lime green and the color combination to inspire your next design. So lime green is a green color resembling that of the skin of the citrus fruit. Lime green is a color closely associated with nature, confidence, high energy, and is thought to promote feelings of liveliness, freshness, and creativity. Next is that you will be proposed a couple of color combinations, and you can see that it's very rare when we combine green with the red that we have seen on the logo. So use these color combination suggestions. You can go mono, analogous, complementary, or triad, okay? But in none of these different kind of combination of colors do I see a flashy red like the one I've seen before. So this kind of is not a good sign that these two colors would work well together. So if I go back a notch to the canva.com/color page, you have other things here. Like you have this color palette inspiration page, for example, and we have here almost an infinite number of color palette that you can choose from. You can explore colors, and from here you can really go deep. You can search very far and try to find really the color palette that seems harmonious to you. And then the last thing I want to say about color is that you should be using colors to create contrast, right? If I look at the Canva templates, this is something that can really teach you a lot. Okay, so let me go back to Canva's homepage actually, and I'll go to templates and I will search for presentations. And from here, I'm just going to have a look at the colors. I'm just going to focus on the colors and try to see what's going on here. So we have a lot of like bold color and contrasting color. We have dark and bright color. For example, we have a light background and a dark font. Or here we have the opposite. We have a dark background and a light font. Or we have a yellow and then we have a black font. So basically what I'm trying to show you here is that you can use colors to create more contrast in your visuals. And this contrast is what is going to make it stand out, pop out of the page. So this is really something that you can learn about, that once you create that contrast with the colors, and then you can accentuate it with some shadows, with some shapes that you put underneath your text, but really having that high contrast will help you create better visuals, or visuals that seem better because they stand out. All right, let's move on to our third design mistake. And this one is about alignment. So the elements of your design, being text boxes, elements, or maybe stickers or shapes, the elements on your designs are not properly aligned. And this generates a lack of harmony in your design, a lack of direction, a lack of consistency in your design. So I chose this one right here, which in itself is not a bad design. I think it's a good enough design, but there is a few alignment mistakes. And for this, I want to start working from the editor. I will zoom in a little bit more so we can see what's going on. So for example, I can see the text here is not super well aligned. So one thing I want to show you to help you align your different elements is to use the rulers and guides. So in order to activate the rulers and guides, you'll have to go to File, then Show Rulers, then again Show Guides. So now you'll see the rulers here on the top and on the left side of your screen. And the guides is just, if you click on the ruler and drag, you will bring your guide. Okay, so this little line that you see here, I'm just gonna bring a few lines because I want to show you that this text is not properly aligned. Nothing is really properly aligned here. If I zoom in, I can see that my S here is not aligned with my R. Same with the Y, which should be like this. Then I can bring another one here. Nothing is really properly aligned here. And this generates some lack of harmony on the design. So of course here, things are pretty aligned on the lower part here, and I believe, yeah, it is also aligned. So all of this is well aligned. Let me get rid of some of the guides I've put here. But if I look at this side, you can see this is not aligned with the rest here. It's not aligned with the box. It's not aligned with the title over there. So yeah, there's a few alignment mistakes on this document that makes it simply a little bit hard to appreciate in its totality. So obviously the first thing you should do to make sure you align everything is to use the rulers and guides. Also, use Canva snapping grids. When you bring an element and you bring it close to another one, it will snap on this purple line. So use these automatic snapping guides of Canva to actually properly align the elements on your design. So that was my design mistake number 3. Alignment, it will create this consistency. It will create this harmony on your design. So basically try to always align your different text boxes. If there is one at the bottom, try to align it with something else on the top. And if you're using like random words like these ones, make sure they are somehow aligned. And sometimes misalignment could be created on purpose to kind of bring the focus on a specific element, but it is super important that you learn how to align. If I look also at the distance between the different elements, they also need to be consistent. So here, for example, I believe there is a little bit more space when you look at the E here and the Y. Okay, let me bring a rectangle here so we can actually see what's going on. So this is something I like to use simply to measure things and to make sure everything is properly aligned. So I will position my guides and then I will bring on like a rectangle or something similar. So you see, that's what I was kind of perceiving. This distance between these two words here should be pretty much equal to the distance between these two words, and it's not the case. So these are little alignment mistakes that just make me not quite get this design. So be careful about these things. I think this will really improve your design if you can pay attention to these little details, like go really into this level of granular detail. All right, moving on to design mistake number 4. And this one is about white space or empty space. White space is really this concept of leaving enough empty space on your design so that the elements can breathe, right? So they have space to kind of expand and they create the fact that you will be looking at certain parts of the design. And here I brought this design, which is a flyer, I suppose, for a comparison. Maybe it's a blog post, maybe it's a Pinterest post. But what seems to be the problem here is that there is almost no white space on this design. So it's kind of like the creator of the design wanted to really fill up the entire space. It is this misconception for people who are not very familiar with design or who are getting started with design that if I have all this document, why should I waste any of that good white space on my document. I should put as many information as I can because this is my document. I want my flyer to give that information that I want to communicate. But the result is that I don't really know where to start looking. I don't really know where to look at, actually. What element? Like, there's too much going on this design. So the way to fix this would be to create the white space. So first, you could reduce the size of the two logos, GoDaddy and WordPress. You could reduce that. Then you could start playing with maybe the size of certain text boxes. I can see that the text on this design, all of the text boxes have pretty much the same size. So maybe some of them could be smaller. Maybe some of the text could go away altogether. So what I want to show you here is that this design is clearly lacking white space. And therefore, when I look at this flyer for the first time, I didn't know where to look at, like what to focus on. So it's really your job as the designer to create some kind of direction in your design by leaving some white space and maybe one main element and then the main title and then smaller stuff so people understand where they have to look first. And this leads me to my fifth and final common design mistake for today, and this is hierarchy. So the mistake here is that there is no proper hierarchy between the different elements of this design. Hierarchy means this one is bigger, then this one is in the middle, and then this one is smaller. Kind of like the H1, H2, H3 when you speak about text and titles for a document, for example. H1 will be the biggest one, will be the first main title that people will look at and read first. H2 and H3 will be the ones that you read afterward, right? So same here with this design. There is a lot going on, but no clear hierarchy. Where should I look first? So I'm tempted to say I'm looking at the different visuals here, but then there is a lot of text. This one is bolder, but this one is big and different color. So it's really hard to understand where I should look first. So in order to fix this, Canva actually has a bunch of help for you. If you click on the text tab right here in your left panel, you will see three types of text boxes. You have your main heading, subheading, and your text body. So this is already kind of a preset hierarchy on your Canva design that you can use. This is preset also in your brand kit. If you do a brand kit setup for your Canva design. So I will have my main heading, subheading, and text body. And you see that this hierarchy is already kind of preset for you. So you could use that, just stick to that. Of course, you could use templates also and stick with the templates hierarchy. So every single template here will be already kind of preset with a text hierarchy with some bold text, bold titles, and then smaller ones. Or you could create it yourself if you simply respect a few rules like, okay, I'm gonna have maybe three categories, like the biggest one, the middle one, and then the smaller one, or the body one. All right, so I hope this tutorial was useful. It was a little bit different as we didn't design anything particular, but I believe these 5 design mistakes, and I'm gonna sum them up very quickly. We had the first one is that you have too many fonts. The fonts don't pair well together. Be careful about this. Use some font pairing tools or resources to help you choose the right fonts. The second design mistake is the colors. Colors don't work well together, or you don't use the colors to create enough contrast. You can easily fix that by visiting some resource pages like canva.com/colors, or apps or websites like colorlovers.com, or really any kind of color palette generator tool. The third mistake was the alignment. The elements on your design are not properly aligned, which can seem slightly off or way off if the alignment is really not good. And this generates a lack of harmony on your design. The fourth mistake is the lack of white space. So there's too much stuff going on, no space to breathe for your elements on your design. And finally, the fifth mistake is not properly understanding hierarchy. which means the viewer doesn't know where to focus first, second, and third. And this provokes some kind of confusion. Like, what is this? Like, I don't understand. So thank you for watching until the end. I hope you liked this tutorial. Let me know in the comments. So, hey, Ronnie, this was really shite. I don't like this. I don't want a tutorial like this. Or let me know, yeah, this was actually useful. I enjoy this other style of tutorial. I'm trying to experiment with the style, with the delivery, and Diana is making some other stuff. So by all means, let me know. We are doing this for you guys because we want you to become better designers. So I will see you in the next video.